This conference will now be recorded.
I'll move over to the truck spot so I can give you some more room. I said, I'll move over to the truck spot so I can properly distance it though.
Okay, we have a quorum. The meeting is open to the public. There is no public, so we skip number 3. And am I getting too far ahead of you?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Consider act upon approval of minutes of March 18th, 2021 board meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor? Motion passed. Who's taking minutes?
They're on, they're here taking minutes and we're recording also.
Okay, do we need to call out who made the motion second?
I think it would be good, yes.
Okay, David made the motion, Billy made the second. It was unanimous with people here. Okay, number 5, budget and finance.
Okay, so you should have before you a resolution. That resolution is for the month of March. It says April on there. It's for the month of March. Very little bills to be paid in March. Nothing really out of the ordinary, but I'll be happy to try to answer any questions if there are any.
I move for approval. We have a motion from David Gaddis. Second. Second from Mark Gibson. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay, B, receive monthly financial information.
Okay, you should have before you in your packet the balance sheet. This is as of March 31. We have, as of that date, $345,564.89 in our First United. We'll talk about that a little bit in our investment report, quarterly investment report. You'll see there the AR consumption is a negative. There's, for whatever reason, we've had, just right now, there's people that have double paid, overpaid. Some people, when they send in their meter readings, they just send a check with it, estimating the amount. So they either calculate it wrong or they, whatever reason, they have a credit and they went ahead and paid for their full amount. Like there was a meter reading error or something like that previously. So, I mean, I think that's a good thing, but anyway, that's the reason for the negative there. If you'll flip your page there, profit and loss budget versus actual, you'll see there as far as our income goes, it's virtually nothing. We're accepting meter readings right now through the 30th, and bills from the first quarter go out in May. I did want to point out that the online payment is working now for Red River. Still not working for North Texas, but it is working for Red River. That was a question of the last meeting. So we're up and running there. As far as expenses goes, overall, we're about 22% of the way through the budget. And we're about 25% of the way through the year. Be happy to try to answer any questions there. This is not an action item.
All right, if nothing, we'll go on to C.
Okay, this is the management plan quarterly report as required by our management plan. as of March 31, there was 957 wells registered in the district. And you can see the breakdown on inspections there, month and county, 43 inspections through the first 3 months. Obviously February was, it doesn't reflect there, but, February, there was not a whole lot of drilling taking place. And most of those drillers were out trying to fix broken wells as opposed to drill new ones and meet us for inspections. Also, the monitoring was done in this period, also, water level monitoring.
We just need to forget about February.
Yeah, but looking there, January was worse than, or less than, but yes, I mean, February was just y'all know, especially guys in the water world, in the water system world.
I started joining Mark Gibson in retirement. Okay, if that's all in number 5, go on number 6. Oh, no, E, consider an act upon district's fund balance policy.
If you will, real quick, if we could cover D, the quarterly investment report.
Oh,
We talked about this a minute ago. We are, so as of right now, we have a CD that's matured with East West. And we are out for solicitations right now on CDs. And we've gotten one response back so far, and that was a 0.21% for a 12-month CD. Anyway, it is what it is, but we're still soliciting. The appetite has gone down for them. We're not getting nearly as many responses as we used to, and then when we do, the interest rates aren't nearly as favorable as they were.
Wall Street wants you to invest.
Yeah, y'all want to go buy some stocks or?
I mean, they want everybody to invest. They don't want anybody to save any money in CD. They want everybody to put their money at risk.
The theory used to be that when you start getting some inflation, that the CDs would go up. And in the numbers, it hasn't reflected that we have inflation yet, but you go to the store, go to the lumber yard, go buy some pipe, go buy anything, and we've got inflation going on right now.
I saw a report on 2.6 last month, last year. I mean, it's there. They don't do ways about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody, is there any, I don't even know whether we can by law, but.
No, not that type of investment. We can get, GTUA has a contract investment advisor that we basically mooch off of that advice to use for Red River and all the, we don't have them look at Red Rivers. We actually do have had them look at their investment policy along with Kristen, but they keep real close track of that. But unfortunately, the CDs are the way to go right now, and they're not that great of the way to go. But we're just
the investment advisor.
It's Valley View Consulting. That we did a solicitation RFP several years ago, and that they also do Sherman ISD after. That we were one of the first. The guy, Richard, he used to work for First Southwest. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them, and then has branched off and now is focusing on investment. But he's taught one of my investment training classes. Actually, he teaches them throughout the state, throughout the country, probably, but throughout the state.
He's over in Cook County.
No, he actually is based out of Virginia, but they have folks here. He comes here all the time. Before COVID, he did. But he works remotely, but they're good.
Your fiduciary?
I don't believe so.
Wall Street showed the only fiduciary in Grayson County to be Dale Utter. There was a big list in the Wall Street Journal here about 3 weeks ago. All of the people that are considered fiduciaries. That's the only one in this area that was, which I don't mean it couldn't be another one, but that's all they found.
They're very careful with how they present their advice to us and all that.
Yeah, it's hard to, what I know about it, I'm no expert, but what I know about it, it's hard to be in that line of work and be a fiduciary, because Wall Street's got it all set up, incentives for you to get these things done. I mean,
It's all fun and games until you lose money, is my understanding. If you gain $0 in interest, that's great. If you lose $1, then all of a sudden, what are you doing with this money?
anyway, I guess there's an awful lot of money out there. You've got all these public organizations, all these people that have this, money, you can't keep the money up with inflation. 2.6% inflation, you're not gonna.
Okay, what do we need to do on this as far as?
Nothing, it's just a presentation item. Okay, so we can move on to the fund balance policy. If you're ready.
I consider an active on district fund balance policy.
And Mark, I don't know if you're okay with this, but I might recommend that we go into executive session to discuss, obviously no action.
Okay.
And talk.
Yeah, and we'll just save the time and for attorney-client consultation.
Okay.
And
Okay, you want me to, okay, so at this time at 10:15, the board will go into executive session to discuss item 5E. No action will be taken. For those on the phone, looks like it's all staff. I'm gonna lock the meeting, if you will. If you would log off and then immediately log back on. And once we're out of executive session, it'll let you in.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're coming out of executive session at 11:56. There was no action taken in executive session. Mr. President, are there proposals to table item 5E and
Yes.
revisit it at the next meeting?
Do we need action to table it?
Looks like that, just to take.
Okay. All right, let's move on to number 6. Update possible action regarding DFCs.
Okay, just like last, so basically GMA in, let's see, October 22nd. Yeah, the proposed DFCs were adopted by the GMAA. The district had our public hearing on the DFCs on January 21st. We had no written or verbal comments. And, we are required to provide a summary report of all comments that were received back to the GMA to incorporate into the explanatory report that's being written on behalf of GMAA. And so Kristen has put together a summary report as well as a resolution to formally adopt that summary report. And the nuts and bolts of it is it says we did not receive any written or verbal comments before or after the public hearing. Therefore, the district does not have a summary of relevant comments received. It's a little more to it than that, but.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second? Second. David Gaddis made the motion, Mark Gibson made the second, all in favor? Motion passed unanimously. All right, number 7.
Okay, so this is basically what is not an issue at the given time with Red River, but it is in North Texas. And so we thought, hey, let's bring this up to the Red River board and see if y'all want to take any action on this or how we want to handle it going forward. So basically what we're requesting is direction on how to handle when we discover a well that is not registered, that should be registered, that's a non-exempt well. If you have an exempt well that existed, predated, I think it's mid-2013, you're not required to register that well unless you just want to. But if you were over that 27.7 at the time, or anything other than domestic livestock and poultry, you were in theory supposed to, not in theory, by rule, you were supposed to register the well with the district. So what we went to the North Texas board is, basically if somebody comes in and voluntarily says, hey, I've got a well, I just realized that I'm supposed to be in compliance here. I need to get a permit and all that. We're bringing the board a permit. What we don't want to do is come to the board with the permit and then open up this can of worms. Well, are they in compliance? Are they not in compliance? All that during a permit hearing. So what we're wanting is maybe some direction leading up to it. If somebody comes in and voluntarily tells us about the well, how do y'all want us to handle that? Do you want us to, one thing we could do is we could add in our fee schedule that, for an existing non-exempt well, just basically make the fee $500 more instead of actually issuing them a violation. It's not like, hey, thanks for coming in and tell us, here's a $500 fine, you need to pay this within 30 days. It's more, okay, it's gonna cost you $1,100 to register your well and move on about our business and might be a little more palatable to it. The other thing is that if we find one and we have to use our enforcement or bring it to their attention or whatever to get them to come in for a permit, do we want there to be just an automatic $500 fine or some type of fine that in addition to that 500, or maybe we leave the other one at the same, not additional 500, and we issue a $500 fine, and that's kind of how the conversation starts. Here's a $500 fine, and you have X amount of days to get your permit application in, pay your permit fees and all that stuff, and tack it on additionally. And that's kind of where we're at. We're just kind of wondering what the direction is, how it helps us knowing what the board's attitude on that is before we bring you a permit that for an existing well that has not wasn't in compliance.
And the current, when we previously talked about this, probably around the time of rulemaking, was that, let's just get them into the fold. So we've addressed it before, and same with North Texas. Well, what North Texas did just on Tuesday, because now you kind of have to incentivize people to follow. Y'all been in existence for however many years now. So there, and what I guess the proposal might be is that, okay, so for those that voluntarily come in, oh darn, the well driller says, hey, y'all should have registered this, voluntarily come in, it's an additional $500. So, because they should have been paying fees and everything this whole time. And then for those that we have to find, then it's $1,000 total fine that then they get, and they have 90 days. So they get the letter sent to them with $1,000 fine. They have 90 days to come into full compliance. Beyond the 90 days, it's basically in North Texas, they did 500 per year in addition to 1,000, 500 per year of non-compliance. So it could be a $5,000 and $6,000 fine, which is actually a settlement in lieu of a lawsuit, because a lot of districts, once that 90 days comes, they just go sue. So in reality, what you're doing is you're adding another step. And we do these things pretty much anyway, but what we do is we make it automatic. Instead of coming to y'all every single time, actually after the 90 days, we would come to y'all and say, hey, this is supposed to be $5,000 for whomever that's out of compliance. But instead of just saying, let's get them into the fold, it incentivizes, hey, now you people need to be in compliance. We've given you a grace period.
Yeah, before it, like as she said, it's just, hey, thanks for, no matter what, whether we found them or not, there's no penalty for not paying fees for the last 9 years. You just hop right in and play by the rules. But that was before we were issuing them a permit. And we would like to avoid those discussions at a permit hearing, and for us to know ahead of time that they're in compliance before we bring something to the board, because the board said that if they pay whatever the fee, if y'all decide you want to make them pay an extra $500 or whatever just to register because they should have been, and that kind of sort of makes up for them not, that can vary well. But
yeah,
we're just wanting to know if y'all are comfortable in giving us direction on that, or if we want to handle it on a case by case basis, or how we want to do that.
This has come up in North Texas, but it hasn't come up here.
Well, it has come up here, but
Yeah.
it just hadn't come up here lately, and it hadn't come up since we've had a permitting scheme. And that was the deal, this one that has come up in North Texas, and part of the deal with North Texas, their board's turned over quite a bit. And the people that told us before, we wanted to make sure that this current group feels the same way. And we had a permit that we were considering taking this last board meeting, and advice from Kristen was, let's don't open that can of worms in a permit hearing. And, these people that voluntarily came in, the board all of a sudden decides to fine them $3,000 while they're there to get a permit, and they come in to do the right thing. Let's get all this hashed out ahead of time. So we can tell somebody, this is what it's going to take to get your well in compliance. Or if we find one, then email them a $500 fine and whatever y'all decide.
You're not asking for a specific action, you're just asking
What?
for direction.
I mean, yes, we're looking for direction, but I mean, we have a proposal.
Yeah, I mean, the proposal would be $500, and we don't have it written here, but the 500, this is similar to what North Texas did. $500, add $500 to the registration fee for voluntary compliance. Somebody who's been out of compliance but voluntarily comes in. Our total is $1,100 to register and get a full compliance. And then for those, so essentially it's 600 plus the 1,600 to come into full compliance.
Yeah, so you got the $500 added to your fee schedule.
Yeah.
And then
The
the
500.
first contact would be hey, you're in violation, here's a $500 fine. You need to get all your permit stuff into us within 90 days.
Yeah.
And at that period, that would then go back to the board at that 90 days, and the board kind of has, I don't know that this necessarily needs to be determined in advance, that
No.
portion of it. But that board is saying, kind of our baseline is gonna be $500 a year with a max of 10,000 for however long you've been out of compliance. So for them, it's gonna be, starting off the bat, it's basically $5,000 is what the board's gonna initially say, there's a $5,000 fine. And this person can argue why they should or shouldn't have a fine. I don't know that we need to go into that detail.
No.
I'm more concerned with how do we approach these people? I don't want to go approach them, that's no big deal, when all of a sudden the board gives them a $6,000 fine. I want to be able to tell them with surety how, I would like to be able to, how the board is going to react to this, kind of what our protocol is.
Unless you come in here and call us names, you're not gonna get a $6,000 fine.
Gotcha.
So I don't have a problem with what North Texas did. Why don't we, if y'all are okay with it, why don't we just make the policy uniform so it's easier for staff to remember?
That would be great. And then leaving that 90-day period, I mean, because like Kristen said on that letter, we would not nail it down to any dollar amount. But what we say in those letters, we have the ability to go $10,000 a day, which y'all would never do, but we maintain that ability in this letter and not define what the board's action will be. But bottom line, in 90 days, it's gonna get a lot more serious than it is right now.
I'm good with Lamar, I'm good with that.
No, that's what how do people not know about these things? Is it intentional? What is your?
All of the above.
All the time, they're gonna tell you,
Oh, we didn't know.
we had no idea. Probably
Yes.
a pretty high percentage of the time, I think they're telling the truth. But what we're starting to see down there in North Texas, we got enough of these developers coming through and getting these permits, and we're about to start seeing that stuff in Grayson County, down in Gunner
Gunner.
area, we're about to start seeing vanity pond wells and wells that are irrigating 30 acres, 60 acres of green space and stuff like that. Those guys, I think they know that, oh, I had to do this now. Well, maybe if I just don't ask the question, they're not gonna ask me about this
As for
other
forgiveness.
development. Yeah. And then at some point it goes over to HOAs, and I mean, they're always gonna tell you they didn't know though. The most recent one I can think of is Wolf City. And we brought that to the board on an individual basis because they were, I think they primarily operate in, is it Hunt County? But they have wells in Grayson County, and their CCN kind of comes into Grayson County a little bit, but they're just before permanent rules, and it was just, hey, you need to get compliance, and they did what they needed to do, and here they are. But going forward, it's, hey, you're out of compliance, not only do you need to register and meter this well, you have to put together a production permit application, and that's a pretty tall task to ask some people to do. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, we
So-
do a motion, yeah.
Yeah, Billy, go ahead.
I'm not sure how I want to word
Yeah, because they so moved and we'll.
that. So moved. Very good. I
We
like the way
started
you
doing
work.
that in North Texas.
Billy Stevens made a motion.
I second.
Got a second. All in favor? Harold second.
That's probably hates me, but I'm like, just say so moved and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's good.
You're gonna get that then.
Yeah.
General manager's report.
Yeah, so you can see there in your well registration, we had 3 domestic wells that were registered in March. One of the slower new well registration months we've had in a while. I don't know if that has any correlation with the freeze or whatever, but that's what it is. There's no update on the injection,
No new wells, no.
and then I guess legislative update.
I mean, I think next month we'll know. Right now, there's a lot of bills up in the air, groundwater related and local government related, but they're just, I don't know, at this point, we don't know if they're gonna, there's just a lot of other priorities. So I'd say the next month we'll know whether you need to change rules, what that looks like. The big emergency we had where we were really concerned about effect on your rules has gone away. Now it's just internet notice as opposed to mailing out notice to hundreds of people potentially. So we feel really good about, Drew and feel good about where we're at with that. So we feel like Everything else is pretty straightforward and we'll see. So next month we'll have more of an idea, so nothing really specific.
In Prosper, were you without water,
No, we weren't.
without power,
Nope,
not a single
because
well?
we're really close to the police station, so we think that's why. We think we're on the same little mini grid as the police
Were
station.
there parts of Prosper that
Yes,
were out of power
yes.
for long periods or just rolling?
I think it was rolling. That's what I get.
So I found out something. I've got a neighbor that works for GCEC, and I thought the same thing she thought,
Yeah.
that I didn't lose electricity because of that. That's not it.
What is it? Yeah.
There are circuits that they can punch into their computer and turn off, and there are circuits that you have to go out there and somebody has to punch a phone.
Okay, so maybe.
If you're on one of those circuits, you didn't get
we
turned
didn't
off.
get it.
That makes sense.
And we're kind of old for Prosper. We're in one of the older neighborhoods, so maybe that's it. Well, thank you. Because we were
I
like,
thought
we're
the
just
same
close to the
thing.
police station.
It's
So,
kind of close to PMC, that's the only thing I could say.
yeah. Well, thank you for that. That's helpful. Yeah, because we're kind of
Cut
old.
off that way.
They did?
Yeah.
They came out
It
and
was
did
a
it?
rolling, yeah, they had 3 guys out there, and they had walkie-talkies or something, cell phones. So you might get 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 12 minutes or something, very,
Oh, my.
wasn't that big a deal.
But Mark, I heard that they punch it in, the ones that could do that, but then they try to remove the blackout for those people, and then it wasn't, in other words,
It wouldn't come
it wouldn't
back.
come out. So some of those people stayed off because they're like, oh, shoot, that's not working.
They turned them off, and then ERCOT saying you need to shed more load. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we can't turn them back on. We gotta-
Somebody told me
I
it
don't
was
know
the
if that's true.
hospitals or nursing homes, those areas, they kept them on.
And so if you were
Tried to.
close, maybe
That
you're
was
on the
the-
little mini grid.
The dominant rumor,
That's good to know.
police stations, fire stations, there's.
Yeah, stuff like that, because I think Bottom didn't lose it at all.
The whole-
I didn't blink at my house.
Yeah, they didn't. they
Yeah,
didn't lose
because you
anything.
were close to fire station. That was everything.
Hospital, that's what I'm assuming, maybe it's
Yeah.
on an old circuit, I don't know.
Yeah.
lost it 14 hours.
So,
Overnight.
They don't know either.
I
was out all night.
Yeah, they-
Yeah, you have to be out.
we had 2 little towns. The town of Sunset was out for 5 days straight, and the town of Perrin was out for 6 days straight.
Power?
And no power, 6 days straight, never blinked.
Good grief.
So we're talking,
Next meeting,
May the 20th.
Yes,
What were we thinking that we might, was it, I was gonna say, do y'all know if you'll have a permit?
we don't know at the time, I mean,
Because you didn't have one this month, likely that it's higher.
And we'll just do the thing where if nothing happens, we'll slide on into June.
That's good.
All right, is that it? Everybody happy? I'd slam my hammer down, say we're adjourned, but they took it away from me. So if y'all, and we're adjourned, by the way. So have y'all ever been to,